Again, our guest, Kyle Davis, head coach of the Florala Wildcats. Big win last week over Red Level. Coach, congratulations. Now 7-2 on the year. Man, you've got to be pleased with where you are 9 weeks into the season.
Oh yeah, for sure. I was actually talking to a couple of kids today. When we were sitting at 3-2, 1-2 in the region. I think some folks had counted us out, kind of wrote us off. But our kids, they believed and they felt like that. We were gonna, our best days were still coming, and we were going to improve and get better. And you know, looking back at that, week going into week 6 at 3-2, and now going into week 10 at 7-2. It's just it's a good accomplishment for our ball club.
And two, isn't it a testament to the fact that, we've rehashed over and over that you came in very late in the year, August, and that it did take a little while to kind of get everything in place. And maybe even to this date, everything's not, but it took a while to get your system in, players accustomed to you, you to them. Has that been part of the process?
Absolutely. Absolutely it has been. And you're right. Probably not everything in, but the timing, the understanding, the being able to play without thinking, going and executing, um, the communication, we mentioned that before in here too. I think sometimes, especially when new coaches come in, players don't really know how to communicate with coaches. Coaches don't really know how to communicate with players because the relationship's new, and you don't really know how to take things or understand things. But our communication level as a team has gotten better and better and better as the season's gone on, and that's a big key. I've mentioned on here before how we've been able to talk at halftime with the players, and get some adjustments because of things that they're seeing that they can relate to us, or that players. So, yeah, the relationship part of it, being able to develop that over time, develop the offense over time, that kind of stuff, that's been a big factor for sure.
I don't know. I'm rehashing too the fact that your son is the quarterback, but again, isn't that something that maybe has helped that communication? I mean, if a player wants to know what you're thinking without asking you what you're thinking, there's a good chance your son knows.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, he's a sophomore now, but he's been in this system since he was a seventh grader, at various stops that we've been at. He's able to kind of relate, because some changes that we have done is move some guys around position wise, to I think maximize our offense the best that to its best ability. And when you move guys, if they've been used to being in one position, now they know sometimes they're a little bit unsure about maybe what route they run or what blocking technique they're going to use. And it helps that he's able to kind of, bridge that gap between, me as the coach and them as the player. He's kind of out there, able to kind of bridge that gap and relay, what I'm thinking and kind of put it into, action out there on the field. So it does help for sure.
Okay, be honest with me. Looking ahead, when you first started, did you think 9 weeks into the year you'd be 7-2, that you'd be in the postseason and still have a chance? I don't know what the odds are, but still have a chance to host a game.
I felt. One of the reasons I took the job was because I knew that Florala has had good teams and good history and kids that want to play football. Um, I felt that if I was able to, get our team to where they needed to be and play the kind of ball, because let's be honest, talent's talent, right? It really is all how we as a coaching staff put that talent in a position to be successful. And you know, looking at it from the outside looking in, I felt like talent wise we could. I told a lot of people, we've got a couple of holes that, if we can't get it fixed, I don't know what it's going to be like. But, if we can get it fixed, I feel like we have a pretty good football team. And, like I said, sitting there at 3-2, I think a lot of people wrote us off. Um, I think that there's probably some things that have happened along the way that people didn't expect, both good and bad. McKenzie's not normally a team that beats Florala. And we lost them this year, but Brantley's not a team that Florala normally beats, and we were able to get that win. And I think just from a psychological standpoint for our kids, um, the loss to McKenzie was kind of a turning point for our year. And so I think if you'd asked me then, would that be our turning point to kind of flip the switch and get us going? No, probably not. But now you're sitting here at 7-2. You're playing Elba for playoff positioning. I mean, there's no scenario where we're out of the playoffs. So, we're sitting here being able to play loose, being able to play as a team, as an equal to an Elba, not as a David and Goliath kind of deal. And so, I mean, I'm excited about it. I'm tickled about it, and I think that me coming into the job, it was something that I had felt that we were capable of. Just was I going to be able, and my staff were going to be able to get the kids in the position to be successful to do it.
I want to talk about Elba rather in a minute, and also what the possibility is of hosting a playoff game. But first, Red Level, how did you come out of the game health-wise?
Healthy. Gage is still kind of banged up from the Brantley game. He took a pretty good shot. He's had a kind of a hurt shoulder for a week or so, 2 weeks. Rayshon's got a little bit of an elbow issue, but we don't have any injuries that are debilitating to keep us out of play. And that's another thing too that's been we've talked about before, a blessing. During this season. So far we've been watched out and watched over, that we haven't had any of those debilitating injuries that keep guys out or that end seasons. And so hopefully we're going to continue to be blessed by that, so we can continue to play our best ball. But as far as anything, just your basic hurts and bangs and bruises we got, but we're intact and we're ready to roll.
Pleased with the mental effort on Friday night. You were coming off that big emotional high, knocking off Brantley. So if there was a worry about a letdown, any reality to that?
Well, in all honesty, we had to jump on them pretty good before we went out for the field. We didn't have the greatest pregame. Guys weren't really locked in. They weren't really focused. And I get it. It's tough, having that big emotional week, like you're just locked in trying to get ready for this big time ball game. And then you come off of that. And I mean, you're like, well, what else can we do, from a kid standpoint, and so trying to get them locked in all week. I'm not going to lie, we focused a little bit on Elba during that week because, we did feel like we had the superior football team. Not that we were overlooking them, but that we felt like if we just played our basic game, we would be able to win. I do think that we got their attention in the locker room before the game. It came out a little bit shaky the first 3 or 4 minutes. I think the score was nothing with about 6 minutes to go in the first quarter. And then by the time first quarter was over, it was 24-0. So, we kind of, like I said, we kind of got locked in. We were able to get our starters out after the first drive of the second half, which is, key for health standpoint. Got a lot of our young guys. Well, everybody played, so that's great. Our young guys got varsity reps, which you can't replace those in practice, right? Those varsity reps in the game are important. And so, from all standpoints, I felt like we came out of the game with a positive for sure.
All right, on to Alba. They've got a running back that is committed to the University of Auburn against McKenzie, 430 some odd yards and 10 touchdowns. I mean, this guy obviously is the real deal. How do you prepare for Henderson?
Well, he is good. I mean, he's a nationally known back. I mean, everybody in the United States knows about Alvin. He's a generational kid. You don't see him, but every now and then. I was fortunate enough myself to play with a generational guy. And it's good. It's amazing to watch him work. And you watch him on film, and even though you're on the opposite side of him, you respect what he does. That being said, I mean, I've gone on record saying I think we have the best defense in the region. I think our defense is hands down the best defense. We held Brantley to 22 points. We get, like I said early on, the Georgiana game, I think that's an outlier for what we are as a team. I think Coach Green does a great job of scheming individually each week for the guys he needs to scheme for. I don't think this is any different this week. I think we got a great plan to stop what they do. I mean, they make no bones about it. 2 and 10 are getting the football. I mean, that's what's going to happen. They're going to run right at you, and if you can stop it, they'll tip their hat to you, but they're betting you're not. And so, like I said, Coach Green spends hours and hours game planning, getting things together. I bet you we probably watched, with the kids, we probably watched 10 hours of film, and by ourselves, we probably watched 40 hours of film, and so it's just trying to get those little, nuances of, where do you fit? How do you set the edge? That kind of stuff. And And that's what we got to do. We got to be great at setting the edge. We can't let him get out on the edge. And then when we cut him off from that edge, we got to have cutback players. That's where he really hurts you. If you watch a lot of film, Alvin might be stuck on the edge, but nobody plays the cutback, and he's going to cut it back, and everybody overplays him to the outside. And, that's where he gets a lot of his big gains from.
I'm about to tell you my age, but I used to do some high school football in Milton when a fellow by the name of Emmett Smith played for Escambia, and everybody knew he was going to get the football. It didn't matter. I mean, this guy was going to pick up yardage. Is Henderson that kind of guy? No matter who knows how many guys you get on him, is he going to be a guy that can pick up yardage regardless?
I think that to say you're going to like shut him out, that's a tough thing to say, because yes, he's a guy that's, he generally falls forward. He runs behind his pads. He has generally good blocking for him. So, he's not, I don't think he's Emmitt Smith. I mean, that's a Hall of Famer, but he may be one day. I do know this. He's one of the top 5 high school backs I've ever either played with or seen in my life. And I've seen some good ones. And like I said, I played with one of the best ever. So, it turns into a situation of, I do believe that we're good enough defensively. It's not a 57-54 like the Brantley game was, or an 80-78. I think that if we play our game, we're good enough. I think that the flip side of that is offensively, can we capitalize on the times that we do stop them? And because I do believe there will be some stops. I believe we'll have some stops. But as far as the kind of player that he is, he's generally going to be positive game. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the playoff scenario. I mean, we can, for all practical purposes, assume McKenzie is number 1. They got a red level this week, so they will likely finish the 1 spot. If you knock off Elba, there's Elba, Georgiana, and Florala with 2 losses in the conference. So who gets to be home the first week of the playoffs if that happens?
Okay, in that scenario where, we beat Elba, Georgiana wins, McKenzie wins, the first tiebreaker goes to who beat number 1. Well, Georgiana beat McKenzie back in, I believe it was week 3 or week 4. So they would get the 2. Then it would go to head-to-head. We beat Elba, we'd be the 3, Elba would be the 4. If by some way Pleasant Home were to beat Georgiana, and we were to beat Elba, then we would get the 2. And if Brantley wins, then you got 3 tied at 4 and 3, and Elba gets the 3 because they beat Brantley head to head, and Brantley gets the 4 because they beat Georgiana head to head. Georgiana would be out of the playoffs, so they'd be going from, driver's seat to outhouse. But I think probably the most likely scenario is the first one we talked about. If we win the ball game, if we win, Georgiana probably beats Pleasant Home. They'll get the 2. We'll get the 3. Elba gets the 4. If Elba beats us, then Elba is, the 2 because they beat Georgiana. Georgiana's the 3, and then we're the 4 because Georgiana beat us. So be like that.
So Florala's a 3 or 4 more than likely, which
Right.
means the road game, the first of the year. Are you glancing ahead to a potential matchup in postseason, or is that just off the table right now?
Oh no, it's not off the table. I'm getting film on about 5 or 6 teams right now. No, I think you have to prepare. We're blessed that we got a week 10 off, right? So we can, get healed up. We can rest our guys a little bit, go scout some games. But potentially right now, if we're a 3, it's looking like possibly Otago Academy is where you travel to. If we're a 4, possibly Maplesville. Now that could change Friday. Verbena and Maplesville play. If Verbena were to beat Maplesville, you'd have a 3-way tie for first place. So that comes back to the tiebreakers again. But where it stands now, being a 3 seed, probably Otago Academy, being a 4 seed, probably Maplesville.
Well, Coach, it's been a great year, and it ain't over yet. Still plenty of football remaining. 1 game in the regular season. and we're believing more than one in postseason as well. Kudos to you and your staff. Great job. And obviously the players. They've gotten out there and banged together a 7-2 mark going into the last game of the year. Thanks so much for sharing with us, and I guess we'll talk in 2 weeks prior to the playoffs.
All right. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it.